The littlest Audi. I think I did a video about this recently. Here's the new Audi A1, the second generation of Audi's posh little car for the masses. I say masses, it's probably going to start at around 18 grand, so. Still, it's lovely and it's spacious. This time round, it's 5-door only, for the time being at least. And it's a little bigger in every direction than before. Got that wrong, it's actually a bit narrower, which means it's got more interior space. As before, the cabin has a touch of the Audi TT about it. And as you would expect, there's much more tech than ever, including a standard fit 10-inch high-definition instrument panel. The boot's gone up to a very family-friendly 335 litres. And because it uses the very latest Volkswagen Group small-capacity petrol and diesel engines, got that bit wrong too, no diesels. It's more efficient than before too. Power ranges from 95 to 200 horsepower, and you can of course get most of the engines with a twin clutch automatic gearbox. Big car tech includes radar cruise control, lane departure warning, and autonomous emergency braking. Much more on this over at Honest John and other things that are interesting. So, a couple of minor errors aside, making up some engines and stuff, this is pretty much the basics of the new Audi A1. It's bigger, more techy, better looking, and probably the best small car, super mini if you like, pound for pound in the world. The end. You can get back to watching Car Wow now. Still here? Wow, okay then. Wow, 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 wow! So, Audi A1, well, I think it's the best runabout on sale today, bar none. It's not perfect. For a start, it's an absolute expensorama. It may well come with a fully digital instrument display and a fancy infotainment touchscreen, and quite frankly, the best cabin ever committed to any small car ever. But again, it starts at £18,000 and it's just about possible to exceed £30,000 on one of these. I mean, you'd have to be mental to do that, but you can. And that fact, people, is indicative of the particular car that Audi is clearly pitching this squarely against. Yep, this thing, the Caps Lock Mini, Oxford/Bavaria's ubiquitous British/German icon. See, what Audi has clearly realised, and quite late, is that people who buy small fancy cars love to spend extra money personalising them. Ergo, you are positively encouraged to tart up your A1 to the extent that it looks like something that you've concocted in Grand Theft Auto. In fairness, Audi offers nowhere near the landscape of endless vinyl stickers that Mini does, but for example, Audi split the S-Line trim for the A1 4 ways. Standard S-Line, competition, contrast, and style. Each has its own particular look, and of course you can, in addition, spec from a whole palette of interior and exterior colours that go way beyond Audi's usual palette of black, white and shades of grey in the middle. So what you end up with is something like this particular car, which is mostly grey, but it's also black and gold, black and gold. And not just on the outside, so in this car, the little bits behind the door handles are bronze, and there's bronze down in the centre console and on the dashboard. It's the sort of car that if you inspect it closely inside or out, it's a proper mess. There are details all over this thing, vents and creases and again, colours and stuff. But if you step back from it, it all looks brilliant and somehow coherent, to my eyes anyway. And that's an aesthetic characteristic shared with, funnily enough, the Caps Lock Mini. Two things to note though, #1, you can buy this without all the visual accoutrement. And #2, none of this should detract from the fact that this is a brilliant little car, fundamentally. You know, a few years ago, this cabin would not have looked out of place in an executive car. A few hard surfaces aside, that is. And that applies whether you spend 18 or 30 grand on your A1, because either way, you're going to get the car's party piece, twin displays. Audi's digital instrument panel is bright and clear, and you can adjust it to show you the things that you want to see. Although it will always show you the legal stuff like what speed you're going. And the same goes for the infotainment screen, which is lovely and intuitive. As in, it doesn't take half a mile to change the radio station, which in the modern era is a safety feature in itself. It is really well equipped, this thing. I mean, if you don't expect to be looking at a full digital instrument panel in front of you, you certainly don't expect to have full LED head... Bollocks, man. certainly don't expect to get full LED headlights as standard, but there they are, as well as dancy indicators, and automatic lights and wipers, and DAB, and Bluetooth, and air conditioning, and voice control. Honestly, if it didn't look so boring, an Audi A1 SE really could be all the car you'll ever want. But we have already been through the whole pimping up your A1 thing, so we'll not go there again. Practicality is important though, so let's do a bit on that. Now, last time around, hardly anybody bought a 3-door A1, so this time you can only get it as a 5-door or a Sportback in Audi speak. And I have to say, right, that for the last week this car has been more than adequate family transport for me and my lot. The kids reckoned they had plenty of room in the back. And just for reference, the kids are 10 and 11, and the 11-year-old is nearly as lanky as his dad. His dad being me. More impressive is the boot space. There is that much. And that amount there is approaching family hatchback size in terms of pure literage. Not a family crossover, but not that far away from what you'd expect from like a Golf or a Ford Focus. And you get a split folding rear bench as standard, and a flat loading floor, and generally a boot that, although not huge, is very easy to use and certainly passable for day-to-day family duties. And so this is shaping into quite the little runabout. Spacious, great to look at, disarmingly well equipped. All that needs to happen now is for it to be half decent to drive. And so, it is absolutely half decent to drive. Oh, that was not the climax, wasn't it? Yep, the main and possibly the only real criticism that I have of the A1 is that it's almost entirely unmemorable to drive. To go back to its arch nemesis, the Mini, while I do appreciate that some people don't like driving that thing because it's too firm and too heavy, the one thing that you certainly can say about that car is that it is unique to drive and therefore memorable. I refuse to actually say it, but you know what I'm saying. Yeah, that whole thing. This though, there's nothing bad about the way it drives. In fact, it drives very nicely, largely. But it doesn't really have much character. It's been set up somewhere on the scale between comfortable and sporty, as though they're mutually exclusive characteristics, which in a small car they don't necessarily have to be, as the Ford Fiesta demonstrates. Now don't get me wrong, right? Nothing bad is happening here. It's ergonomically brilliant, fantastic driving position, really good visibility, and it's a lot of fun to throw about the place in that way that most well set up small cars can be. It's just not that exciting, and to drive it doesn't have a distinct character about it. The steering's too light and the ride's a bit too firm and fidgety, although the massive gold wheels that this thing has probably isn't helping there. I love gold! And the pedals, right? Now, they're literally well positioned. There's lots of room to move your size 12s around. But in this particular car, the bite of the clutch is too high and the accelerator pedal is too sensitive. So it's actually very difficult to avoid kangarooing away from junctions. And it quite often bursts the bubble of big car refinement that this thing generally has. Engines and gearboxes then. No diesel, and there probably never will be. Instead, you get a bunch of petrols, and because I've just realized now that I didn't write this section of the script, I'm just gonna give you some nice music to listen to, and I'm going to show you them on the screen. Okay then, let's move on. This one is the 35 and it's the only one I've driven, so it's the only one I'm really qualified to comment on. It's alright, but it doesn't quite feel like there's 150 odd horsepower here. It's quick enough when you push it, but there's a sense of inertia, especially at low revs, that makes it feel a little bit more sluggish than you'd possibly want it to be. I have to say, as much as I've just criticised this thing for not being that exciting and perhaps not being quite as comfortable as it could be, I'm going to put a flag down here and say that I think this is probably the best small car ever made. Now I know that will light the touch paper in some, and there are of course plenty of highly iconic and important small cars that you could mention.
It's a special edition, a Hawaii.
But what I'm saying is there has never been a small car that pretends to be a big, luxurious car as well as this one. Just in terms of the way the cabin feels and the technology it has and the sense of refinement overall. Now, I know you get what you pay for, and in that sense, it's not a fair fight. You know, if you compare this to a Vauxhall Corsa, it's like comparing a cruiserweight to a flyweight. But if you step out of something that's similarly sized to this, like a Ford Fiesta or a Corsa, The difference in quality, the step up, is just night and day. Now, it's not as exciting as Audi wants it to be, but I just don't think you can buy a better runabout than this. So there you go, thanks for watching, really appreciate your time. Please leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, watch our other stuff and drop us a comment. I love hearing all the things you have to say. See ya, bye. Ugh, kangaroo. Yeah, that's just because you can't drive. Thanks, comment section troll.